Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I think for the SNP, the party is now truly over. All the snacks have been eaten, all the beer has been drunk, all the good stuff has gone, and they're trying to end the day with whatever they can get. And let me tell you, half a pint of Campari and limeade ain't going to cut it anymore. But as they're entering what is possibly going to be their worst hangover in political history, you have to ask, what on earth were they thinking? The manifesto launch was... I struggle to find words. It was flat. Let's just say it was flat. There was no trumpets. There was no hurrahs. There was nothing in there that was like, hey, look. And I've mentioned before how it really isn't a manifesto for a general election. It was, let's put stuff in that might appeal to someone when we have a referendum, because nothing in there really would affect the people of Scotland today. And that's why. Because they can't offer anything for people in Scotland today. Every aspect that they've tried has been a complete failure. NHS, failing. Education, failing. Transport, failing. Communications, failing. The economy, failing. Highest drug deaths, highest alcohol deaths. Prices going through the roof. High taxes. Everything. And so what can they put into their manifesto that shows them to be in any way competent? Nothing. Like I mentioned earlier as well, there's a £200 million court case going through, and they've got to find a quarter or half a billion it's going to be by the time it's finished to hand back to the EU. And so that's why their manifesto, thin, on very cheap paper it said, is all about what we can do in an independent Scotland, not what can we do for you now. Because there's nothing. It's a very uninspiring document, led and pushed by very uninspiring people. One only has to look. The last leader, Humza Yousaf, a man who liked making strange faces, who was often caught out relating himself to various people who were, say, dealing in pharmaceuticals on an amateur basis, or were handing money over to prescribed organisations. And then this is followed up by a man who's been at the core of the SNP since, time immemorial, who's so bound up with all the crookery and corruption that you don't know where he ends and Nicola Sturgeon starts. A man who is just another glove puppet of Sturgeon. They don't want an individual. They don't want someone to run the party. They want someone who will front the party, because there makes no bones, the party's still run by Sturgeon from behind the scenes. And he stood there and he looked like a man who really wanted a couple of Alka-Seltzers and to go and lay down as he was announcing his manifesto. And it wasn't good. And everyone could see it. There was just no oomph. All the journalists were there. And they're all just standing around. Yeah, whatever. And they put the requisite things up. Oh, come on, let's put a wee saltire up. Let's give him a podium. Let's pretend that anyone is interested. And they really weren't. They just weren't. It was a boring announcement. He was lumbered with trying to encourage this positive reaction from a document that has nothing in it to say. And he's doing it in a very tiny crowd. It's not even as though he was dressing a large audience and saying, hey, come with me, let us do this, and trying to elicit a response. Nobody really wanted to be there, least of all him, I think. And that's, this is a man who'd have been happily putting his pyjamas on, winding his alarm clock up and going to bed. But then he is getting on a bit, isn't he? This is the thing. He's no spring chicken. But he stumbles through this. He stumbles through his speech. He makes a few little PowerPoint things. We're going to do this if we're independent. We're going to do that if we're independent. But offering nothing for today. Now, you go back 3-4 years ago, right? And it would have been Nicola Sturgeon. And she, before her fall, as it were, before her fall from grace, and all the costs and things in there with, expensive transport options, motorhomes and things. But she would have had a huge crowd, and she'd have been on her feet, and she'd have been holding sway, holding court. She would have been uplifted. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. The crowd would have been ecstatic, and it would have been a showpiece. But for Swinney, it wasn't. It was just Oh, it was going through the motions. They were phoning it in. It wasn't even as good as Hamza Yousaf. Put it that way. That's how bad Swinney is. He lacked the charm of Hamza Yousaf. You know, you're not going anywhere with that one. I mean, I honestly, Swinney has all the charm of a lung disease, hasn't he? He's got this tiny little crowd, and he's whipping them into apathy. I mean, and you get even the flags look pale and worn, as though they've been left out in the sun too long. He mumbles away, makes non-committal blah 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 blah. It's like Joe Biden on sleep tablets. He really is. Half the crowd are zizzing. You know, you can hear snores from the back, and he's trying to push this as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Don't go back and re-watch it. At least not without, a good couple of shots of cappuccino to keep you bolted. It's almost anyway. So he's standing there. You've got all these faceless non-entities around him, all pretending that they're important. And truly none of them are. And it's quite clear to see the party's over. And when I say the party, I mean both metaphorically, hey, all the good times are gone. But actually, literally, the SNP are finished. They've got nothing. They've got no enthusiasm. They've got no policies. They've got no personalities. It's all a series of grey men doing grey jobs and mumbling their way through them. I've been in board meetings like that. Well, the fourth deficit profit margin is down by 7%, but as we see here, the pipeline investment will be coming forward. We're anticipating a 2% uplift. I've been in meetings like that. You have to go through the motions, and it's as boring as shit, but these things do have to present them. When I present them, it was all PowerPoint. Yes, I know, not death by PowerPoint. I used to put a lot of humour in them. But that was the whole point. But, when you get these things, especially, oh, God, you got site manager report. Tell me what. Come on, Paul. One of our site managers. Come on, Paul. Tell me why you're 3 months behind schedule and over $1.5 million over budget. Then Paul has to do that. And you can see the look drain from his face. Well, it's much the same watching this lot. Don't ask them questions. Don't ask them questions. Now, the thing is, I mean, in all fairness, Swinney is not a stupid man. He's been to university, Edinburgh, I think. And he's been around in politics a long time. He knows how to play the game. He's had a lot of high-profile positions. He's one of those that's climbed the greasy pole. But he's done through time serving and by the sponsorship of other people. Alex Salmon brought him up and up, brought him in and up. Nicola Sturgeon brought him in and up, and so forth. And so he's paid his dues, he's done his penance, he's kissed the right arses, shaken the right hands, and he's found himself at the top. And now he's there. He doesn't know what to do with it. I think it's very, very sad. He's found himself in Butte House. He's got the keys to Butte House. But he's lost, isn't he? He's like a little boy lost. And he obsesses with this and he obsesses with that. And the one thing he doesn't obsess with, though, is improving the lives of Scots. And that's sad. And that is why the party is over. Anyway, enough of that. That was just a little personal opinion. I hope you can relate to it. Do hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and let me know what you think about John Swinney and about the manifesto. Because I have read it, I've done it for you, and God almighty, is it the most useless piece of paper I've ever read. Anyway, bye.